Alright, welcome everybody to some character introductions that we are going to be doing before we go into the Battle of LakeTown. And our first character that we are going to be introducing, as you can see right over there on the screen, is, well, he can't see it, but Animal Listener, who is a woodman, scholar / wizard, played by Ender Miles. And this is Ender, the beautiful man, right above me. So, for those of you guys who are familiar with Adventures in Middle-earth, you were probably like, wait a second, there aren't wizards in Adventures in Middle-earth. How does that work? Well, Ender is kind of really good at being a homebrew guinea pig. And so we've taken and a lot of this all kind of lines up with his backstory, all of which he can explain if he wants to or not on how it functions with his backstory. But we were able to take some aspects from the Master Scholar subclass, as well as utilizing the 5th edition D&D Wizard class, and basically kind of splitting them, and Ender kind of made sort of like a subclass extension, as I guess I can call it, for the Master Scholar, as well as the Master Healer, to make them more combat viable, because they kind of fall off pretty early. So, I don't know if there's more you want to explain, Ender, but you can go ahead and let the audience know about your character, everything that they should know before we go into the Battle of LakeTown.
So, the way the subclass thing works is, essentially, I broke it down into subclass things you get from 5e wizards, which are levels, I think, 2 through 14. But so essentially at level 7 as a Master Scholar, you get 1 level in Wizard, all the way up until you hit 20, at which point you cap at 14 levels in Wizard. But that does get you all of your subclass options as that Wizard. My character, his name is Animal Listener. He grew up in just a normal Wisman village, a small village. His father was a scholar, and he really looked up to him. Problem was, his dad eventually ended up getting into kind of the darker lore, the shadow lore, or so the term in this in this world is. And when you do that, it ends up corrupting your mentality. You get shadow points, and it's rough. But so at some point in time, my dad had succumbed to the shadow, and he had killed my mom and mostly beaten me to death, and then disappeared. No one's really quite sure what happened to him, so assumed dead. We'll see. I'd love to find out one day. But I did find a journal of his, and I have taken up kind of where he left off. Animal Listener has. And so I am kind of trying to use the shadow against the shadow in a typical using evil to defeat evil way. But Animal Listener is super unhealthy about it. Not in the way of like letting it control him, but in the way of he doesn't take care of himself. He will pretty much throw anything away to get knowledge and have that opportunity to just expand his information and know more about the shadow and know more about how to use the shadow. He's not afraid to risk people or things, and that hasn't come out a whole lot in this campaign, but like one of the side effects of it as well is he just doesn't eat. Every time we've sat down for a meal and it's been a point, he eats. He picks at it, eats maybe 3 or 4 bites, and is done. He's super unhealthy. And that's been really interesting to roleplay and determine how that actually affects him physically. And I don't think I do a great job of it. I had joined the party at the very start of this whole campaign. We had met at an inn, and presumably on purpose, Gandalf had kind of pulled a handful of us together to form this party, and had kind of set us on our track. And through that initial journey, in all honesty, quite a few bonds formed, especially for Animal Listener. He'd always kind of been on his own. But then the story progressed. They did things. They fought orcs, etc. And I ended up absconding from the party with another party member. Kind of due to some questionable reasoning, but I did. And then him and I had spent a few months kind of on the run, looking for and hunting down shadow agents in the Free People's Land. And then we had spent some time in the lands of Mordor. And have recently come back and mostly on accident found the party again. We had been hunting someone. Specifically, we had been hunting an orc known as the Harbinger. And the party had killed him. So me and Eagle, he's the other party member that had ran away with me, had come back to the party seeking them because initially it was relieving and we had heard that he had died and was killed, and it was, job well done. We don't have to search for him anymore. But then later, we actually encountered the Harbinger again. And so we were seeking the people who had killed him the first time to kind of glean any information from them we could, and to possibly recruit them into killing him again, because presumably they had a personal vendetta. And that's how Animal Listener came back to the party. And I don't know, at the moment, Animal Listener and Eagle kind of have a bounty on their heads, but only kind of. Being in LakeTown, it's really interesting because normally Animal Listener would actually try and, push the envelope and do things and get things done. But he doesn't feel like he can because of his situation. And he's actually spent the last few days, and will presumably spend the next few days, preparing for the city by actually studying a handful of books he's recently picked up and a handful of dark tomes that hopefully will have knowledge for him that he can use. And we'll see how that works.
All right. Thank you, Ender. And we're going to go ahead and transition to Ender's, the Animal Listener's companion that went with him on their escapade. So our next character that we are going to be introducing will be Igglefun. He is our Men of Minas Tirith treasure hunter warrior that you can see off to the side that way, not that way. He's played by Xavier Miles, who is above me, and I'll let him take it from here.
So, Igglefun Gilfanor, Man of Minas Tirith. He's a military man. His father was a captain along the wall by the name of Golaskil Gilfanor. He has one sibling named Argil Gilfanor, and his mother was a noble named Marwyn. So, he grew up on the wall. He grew up military trained. Him and his brother were, for the most part, inseparable during their childhood and training. His father was fairly prominent until he tragically was assassinated by an orc assassin. And Argil, Igglefund's brother, convinced Igglefun and a number of other men to go after this orcish assassin in what ended up being a very unfortunate encounter that left a lot of people scattered or dead. Igglefun and Argil essentially abandoned their posts along the wall and were considered fugitives or dead, unconfirmed, at least by the Men of Minas Tirith. So from then, he did a lot of traveling with Animal Listener, who he joined the party with, and then they kind of left and then came back, and there was a whole bunch of stuff like that.
And our next character that we are going to be introducing is going to be Aldor, who is played by this man. Aldor is our rider of Rohan's Slayer. If you guys don't know what a Slayer is, but are familiar with the 5th edition D&D, it is a barbarian. If you aren't familiar with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, basically a Slayer is big weapons and lots of damage.
Big tanky.
Yeah. They're very combat based. Yeah, so that's all you'll get from me, and I will turn everything over to him, and he can explain all about his character while I drink some chocolate milk.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, I'm a Rohan rider. They come from the land of Rohan, if you don't know Lord of the Rings stuff. But yeah, basically the description of my character is I'm, average height, mostly. I got long blonde hair. I usually wear a green cloak around me. I now have recently got myself a shield. I won't get into where I got it. But yeah, I carry around like 3 different swords with me, a couple of hand axes. I take my horse Firefoot basically everywhere because he's my horse, and I stole him once from one of my companions. Actually, I stole him back. Correct term. Anyway, Ender took him.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of what I am doing is I am hunted by the shadow here. Basically, the enemies are trying to track me down and kill me. And this is because, for my backstory, I won a successful battle against them, which it was a pivotal battle to where they could control our land, and my contribution, like all of my battle strategies and setup and stuff, helped to overcome the battle, and Rohan Riders actually won, and they have hunted me ever since. So I am constantly on the run. I had a squire with me that recently died. I blame Lookum forever. Not him. I don't blame him. I blame the Hobbit. Anyway, but yeah, both of us were traveling for a while, and eventually we eventually got captured, and we're going to be executed, but we got saved by the rest of the party, and I'm sort of staying with them to sort of pay back the debt that they have given me.
Yeah. Now we're gonna transition to our next character. So our next character that we are going to be introducing is Wilcom, our hobbit treasure hunter and wanderer, who's played by Micah, who's right here next to me, which is an interesting thing because I don't normally do much stuff in person, but we had a really good opportunity to be able to do some things in person. So yeah, he is a treasure hunter, wanderer, multi-class. And yeah, the rest I will let him explain, because he's pretty standard in terms of homebrew nonsense, unlike Animals. So go for it.
So basically, the story starts out pretty much Wilcom is pretty adventurous. He likes to go exploring, and he may have wandered a little too far outside of the Shire and may have gotten kidnapped just slightly. And so and yeah, he was forced to pretty much be a thief by this organization, and for 10 years of his life, so a slave thief. So he's beat up and got some pretty good whipping scars all over his body. But yeah, he joined the party when he escaped that one group and got in too close of contact with orcs, and pretty much was captured with an orc cavern with, I think it was Iggle and Animal Listener. So yeah.
No, you were captured with Aldor and Philippe.
Oh, it was Aldor and Philippe. That's what it was, not Animals.
Philippe's not relevant.
Aaron, look, watching this now. But yeah, he's had some dark stuff happening along with the Nazgul, and yeah, chucked a bomb at him. That didn't go over well.
You did chuck a bomb at them. I remember that.
Yeah, and now my arm fell off because of it.
It's not like he threw the bomb at the ring wraiths and it blew up his arm. He was afflicted by a curse, and it made his arm slowly rot until it fell off. Did he try to pretend to be a zombie?
It was genius. What do you mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to cover?
I was gonna say that's just about it. I'm in prison now.
You are in prison. All right. Thank you, Micah. And with that, we'll move on to our next character. Okay, so our next character that we are going to be introducing will be Walda, our woman of the lake, warrior, who is played by Deanna, who is right above me. Deanna, go ahead and introduce your character.
Alright, Walda is a warrior. She typically uses a bow because bows rock. And she spent her most recent years in LakeTown, and with her brothers and her dad running a fishing business. And she went out adventuring because her dad got really sick with this crazy sickness. Nobody knew what it was. And so she went out adventuring to find a cure for her father. And after long travels, she eventually found the cure and just brought it back to her dad. And now he's all good.
Yes, it is all good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and transition to our next character now. And our next character that we will be introducing is Oramus, our Elf of Mirkwood scholar, who is played by Tim, which is this guy right here. In case you haven't gathered that from the other characters, go for it, Tim. Tell us about Oramus.
Alright, so basically, Oramus is an Elf of Mirkwood who specializes in healing. He is a master healer, and so he has devoted a lot of his time to this. He's about 2,400 years old, so he's had a lot of practice. He's pretty tall and has a decent build to him. Green eyes, like a similar appearance to Legolas's, except slightly less attractive. So yeah, basically he just wants to heal everyone, obviously except for the shadow orcs and trolls. But that's just his main goal, is heal everyone and also just learn more about magic, because he started out as a magician and that's still his passion, although he's been roped into a lot of adventures with other people as of Gandalf. That was a long time ago.
That was a very long time ago.
But yeah, he has a lot of cool abilities for healing everyone. His main feature would be his Hands of Healer ability.
Cool. Alright, and our next character we are going to be introducing is going to be blah blah blah, because I'm really bad at actually pronouncing his name. Woodman Wanderer, played by Everett Gilo. Go for it, Everett.
So, my name is Bertfried, or blah blah blah, as the joke goes. As you said, I am a Woodman Wanderer. I was abandoned by my parents at a really young age. After spending most of my life in the woods, I joined up with the party just before the Battle of LakeTown. I have a dog. His name is Chump.
I love that dog name. It's so good.
Yep. Not very
Creative?
well. Traditional. It's not very traditional for a woodsman dog, but Yeah. I am sort of a shyer character. I'm not going to be outspoken about my deeds. I tend to be the stealthier side. I'm not going to reveal much about my character on this trust. And my trust in order to.
Alright. And we'll see if the party is able to gain your trust during this battle.
You know? Let's see.
Okay, so our next character that we will be introducing is our dwarf warden, who is played by this beautiful man sitting right next to me, Sam Moyer. Yeah, tell us about
Well, as you said, he's a dwarf, and the description or the picture on the screen isn't exactly what he looks like. He does have the brown hair and that flawless beard as there. But he doesn't necessarily have a battle axe. He's going to more have a broadsword, a dwarvish broadsword. He's going to have a great shield, enchanted shield with him. And yeah, so how he his backstory, I don't know too much about him. This is my first time playing any sort of role-playing game, so I didn't take it as seriously. But yeah, so his backstory, he's wanted by the Shadow, so he obviously did something that smashed the Shadow pretty hard. The Shadow pretty hard. And so now he's hunted by them, and so he's running away, and he somehow ended up in the jail of Fenbridge. And that's where he joined the party, rest of the group. And he kind of just been following along from there. And obviously, there's an elf in the party, and dwarves and elves don't like each other too much. But he grew on me as I got friend of the elves, so elves pretty much like me. So he seems to be okay with me. He, after trying to steal my shield shield's such a beastly thing. Yeah, we started to come together as a group, and then accepted me in going. At some point, we were fighting some goblins, and we always have been doing it. And we always come to the last person, and it's like, why should I give you a reason to live? And so I did that. And so he asked a goblin, why should I keep you alive? And he said something, I have information, I can give it to you. I believe. He lots of jokes like that. But so I kept him alive. His name is Ublok, the goblin, and he's been at my side ever since. We beatboxed a lot together. Last time, not always the greatest. The other party members. Yeah, so now we're getting ready to fight this battle, and that's something that I really is looking forward to, because he knows that if there's a lot of people coming together to fight the Shadow, the Shadow, nothing he wants more than to move on the Shadow. Looking forward to the battle. If you're gonna watch it, you're gonna see some overpowered move that Alex is gonna come off right at the start, and
right after the start, you're gonna use it?
Oh heck yeah!
It gives you a point of exhaustion. Okay, are you gonna be like, Tim, let me smoke?
Absolutely. That's a pretty simple plan right there.
Perfect. Alright, and with that, we're going to transition to that said goblin named Ublok, so you guys can learn a little bit about him before we get into the session. And the last character we are going to be introducing is the one NPC that has been added to the party, Ublok, a goblin treasure hunter. Ublok was added to the party when they were hunting for an agent of the Dark Lord known as the Harbinger. After the Harbinger was killed in the fortress of Dol Guldur, Ublok was a part of an ambush party that tried to prevent the rest of the adventurers from escaping. Ublok, being the sole survivor of this party, pledged himself to our adventurers in order for his own life to be spared. During the time he has spent with the party, he has built a solid relationship with the dwarf warden known as I that was introduced earlier. They spend a lot of time beatboxing together, and he has become as loyal to I as anyone can be. Ublok's goal right now is to show people that there are a lot more to goblins than ransacking and murder. And when it comes to Ublak's relationship with I, not only does he see I as a master, but he sees him as his best friend. Because when I looks at him, I sees more than anyone has ever seen in Ublak's mind. And Ublak wants everyone else to see goblins in that same light, no matter where that goblin comes from.